He had rejected CEOs' daughters, heiresses, even models. Lagos called him the Untouchable Billionaire. But one sweltering afternoon, his black SUV stopped in traffic. And there she was, Amara, a poor hawker with a tray of bottled water, sweat on her brow, pride in her eyes. While the city watched in shock, he rolled down his tinted glass, not for money, not for fame, but for her. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of this story. In Lagos, his name carried the weight of thunder. Tunde Williams, 32 years old, founder of a tech empire worth billions. His face was on magazine covers, his words quoted on business blogs, his movements trailed by paparazzi. Women whispered his name in salons, men envied his rise in bars. But for all his wealth and fame, he carried an iron reputation, the untouchable. His mother, society elites, even international investors had lined up women for him. CEOs' daughters, beauty queens, heiresses flown in from London and Dubai. Each time, Tunde smiled politely, shook hands, and walked away. He built companies, not attachments. He collected properties, not promises. One gossip blog had written, "The billionaire who can't be won." Another mocked, "Perhaps he is married to money itself." But no headline ever touched him. He lived high above the city, in a glass penthouse overlooking the lagoon, as if Lagos was beneath him. Noise, people, even love. Behind those glass walls, he walked late into the night. His assistants carried files in and out. His driver waited downstairs. His guards rotated shifts. But the rooms were silent, the dinners cold, the nights long. Still, when society mocked him, Tunde shrugged. "Love," he once told a board member, "is the weakest investment. It feels more than it yields." And yet, even stone cracks when struck in the right place. Tunde had no idea that his test was not coming from a gala, a boardroom, or a palace of wealth. His heart would be ambushed in the most unlikely place, Lagos traffic, where heat, dust, and chaos ruled. And it would not be by a woman dressed in diamonds. It would be by a girl carrying bottled water in the sun. The sun was unforgiving that afternoon, beating down on Lagos like a hammer. Traffic choked Third Mainland Bridge, cars honking in frustration, Danfo buses packed with sweaty passengers shouting at one another. Hawkers weaved between vehicles, balancing trays of plantain chips, gala, and cold drinks, calling out their wares. Among them was Amara. At just 23, she had known hardship all her life. Orphaned young, raised by an aunt who could barely feed herself, Amara survived through grit. Each day, she carried bottled water on her head, darting through traffic under the scorching sun. Her slippers were worn thin, her wrapper faded from countless washes, but her back was straight, her eyes sharp, and her spirit unbroken. She did not beg, she hustled. She greeted customers with dignity, her voice steady even when drivers sneered or guards waved her away. For her, every bottle sold was a step closer to paying rent, to feeding herself, to staying alive another week. That day, as the line of cars crawled forward, Amara's path crossed with a black SUV at the heart of the convoy. Its tinted windows reflected the chaos around her. She paused, adjusting the tray on her head, sweat dripping down her brow. Then, to her shock, the tinted glass slid down. Inside sat Tunde Williams, the Untouchable himself. His gaze, sharp and unreadable, landed on her. She froze, clutching the bottles as her heart raced. She had seen his face on magazines, heard the stories whispered at the market, but never imagined standing this close. For a moment, Lagos seemed to pause. Hawkers stopped mid-call, drivers craned their necks, even the horns dimmed under the weight of the moment. Tunde's voice was calm, deliberate. "Water." Amara handed him a bottle, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed his. He pressed crisp naira notes into her palm, far more than the price. Her lips parted to protest, but his gaze silenced her. There was no arrogance in his eyes, no pity, only curiosity. As if in her, he saw something the rest of the city had missed. The glass slid back up. The convoy moved forward. Amara stood frozen in the sun, clutching the money in her hand, her chest heaving. Around her, hawkers whispered in disbelief. One muttered, "She just sold water to him." Another hissed, "Hey, do you know who that is?" But Amara said nothing. She only adjusted her tray, lifted her chin, and walked on. She had no idea that her life had just collided with the man Lagos thought untouchable. And neither did he know that for the first time, his heart had paused. It should have ended with that single bottle of water, a chance meeting in Lagos traffic, nothing more, but it did not. Days later, Tunde's convoy rolled down the same route again, and again the tinted glass slid down. "Water," he said. Amara, startled, stepped forward. She sold him another bottle. Once more, he pressed far more money into her palm. She stared, trying to find the words, but the convoy was already gone. The third time, she was ready. When his window slid down, she met his gaze directly. "You don't need this much water, sir," she said, steady but respectful. Tunde's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but something close. "And yet, here I am." Her heart skipped. She passed him another bottle, his fingers brushing hers again, lingering a heartbeat longer than necessary. Word spread among hawkers. Some hissed in envy, others muttered blessings. One old woman selling groundnuts nudged Amara and whispered, "Be careful, my daughter. The gaze of the rich burns hotter than the sun." Still, the pattern continued. Each time Tunde passed, his window rolled down and he bought from no one else but Amara. Then one evening, as dusk painted the sky, something different happened. The traffic was heavier than usual. Amara weaved through cars, balancing her tray, when suddenly Tunde's door opened. Gasps erupted from nearby hawkers. Guards stiffened, stepping forward, but Tunde waved them off. He stepped out into the traffic, his tailored suit catching the last rays of sunlight. The world seemed to stop. He walked toward Amara. Her breath caught as he stood before her, taller than she imagined, his presence commanding but strangely vulnerable. "What's your name?" he asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Amara," Tunde repeated. Amara, as if testing the weight of it on his tongue. It suits you. The driver looked horrified, the guards uneasy, the hawkers stunned. Paparazzi locking in nearby cars snapped photos, their cameras flashing like lightning. Amara shifted, heat rising to her cheeks. Why do you keep buying from me? For the first time in years, Tunde's mask cracked. His voice softened, almost to himself. Because when I look at you, I don't see what the world sees. I see something real. The convoy stirred, horns blared, and the moment broke. Tunde returned to his SUV, leaving Amara trembling in the street, her tray suddenly weightless. By nightfall, the photos were already on gossip blogs. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire spotted talking to street hawker, untouchable no more." And Amara's quiet life would never be the same again. By morning, Lagos was buzzing. The blogs had exploded overnight. On Instagram, Twitter, and WhatsApp groups, the pictures spread like wildfire. The untouchable billionaire out of his SUV speaking to a dusty hawker girl in traffic. Headlines screamed, "Has Tunde Williams finally fallen?" From CEOs to street sellers, the shocking choice of the billionaire. Traffic light Cinderella? Some laughed, others sneered, many refused to believe it was real. In salons across Ikoyi, women shook their heads in disgust. In clubs on Victoria Island, men teased one another. So all our sisters in wigs and heels lost to a hawker? Meanwhile, Amara was still selling bottled water, but her world had shifted. As she weaved through traffic, other hawkers stared, whispering. Some mocked her, "See her, Lagos celebrity." Others hissed, "Don't forget us when you enter big house, oh." But the worst came from the elites. At a rooftop lounge in Ikoyi, 3 socialites gathered, Ajoke, Iago, and Nkechi, women who had each, at some point, tried and failed to win Tunde. Draped in designer gowns, their faces twisted with scorn as they scrolled through the viral pictures. Ajoke sneered, sipping champagne. "A hawker, after all our efforts?" Iabo rolled her eyes. "He's mocking us. He wants to embarrass us. That girl will regret the day she crossed him." But Nkechi leaned forward, her smile thin and dangerous. "No, sisters, she will regret the day she crossed us." Back in her small one-room apartment, Amara sat on her mat, her hands trembling as she scrolled through the comments on her borrowed phone. Some people praised her beauty, others cursed her poverty. One comment struck like a blade. "Stay in the gutter where you belong." Her chest tightened, tears filling her eyes. She shut the phone, clutching it to her chest. "Why me?" she whispered. But even as fear wrapped around her, she remembered his voice in the traffic. "I see something real." It was that memory, not the headlines, not the whispers, that gave her enough strength to return to the streets the next day. Little did she know, the battle for her life in Lagos was only beginning. The days that followed were anything but normal. Traffic still choked the bridges, hawkers still darted between cars, but Amara no longer moved unseen. Drivers leaned out to take her picture. Some jeered, others whispered as she passed. Mothers pulled their children closer as if her shadow carried scandal. She tried to ignore it, tried to keep her head high, but the weight of a city's gaze pressed heavy on her shoulders. At the same time, in the glittering lounges of Ikoyi, Ajoke, Iabo, and Nkechi were sharpening their knives. "We will not be humiliated," Ajoke snapped her glass onto the table. "The blogs are calling her traffic light Cinderella. Do you know the mockery we face because of this? But it was Nkechi who leaned in, her voice like a serpent's hiss. Then let us end it before it grows. If she thinks Lagos traffic is harsh, wait until she feels Lagos power. The other smiled coldly. That night, Amara finished her day later than usual. The sun had long dipped and the streets were dim under flickering streetlights. She adjusted her empty tray and walked the narrow road toward her room, her slippers slapping against the dust. Behind her, a sound, a low hum of tires on asphalt. She turned slightly. A sleek black SUV rolled slowly down the street, its headlights cutting through the dark. Her chest tightened. She walked faster. The SUV followed. Her heart pounded as the vehicle crept closer, silent except for the growl of its engine. Then, with a hiss of brakes, it stopped beside her. The tinted window slid down. "Amara," woman's voice called from the shadows. Amara froze, clutching her tray, her breath shallow. The night was suddenly too quiet, the danger too close. And there, under the dim street light, the poor hacker realized the elites had noticed her. But what waited inside that SUV was not just a warning. It was the beginning of a war for her life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because in part 2, you'll see what happened when Lagos's most powerful women decided to crush a girl who had nothing but dignity to her name.